Hello, everyone. Welcome to Partners Personnel's Workplace Safety is Job Number One webinar. My name is Brad Pearce. I'm the VP of Marketing here at Partners Personnel, and I'll be the host for today's webinar. I wish that I could say that we are having a sunny day here at corporate headquarters in Santa Barbara, California, but unfortunately, we're still having a little bit of June gloom. We hope that will change soon. Once again, thank you for being part of this webinar. We're excited. We have some great presenters here today, but most of all, we appreciate you being with us. Among many other things that we hope that you will learn from today's webinar, here are some of the things that you will learn. You'll receive practical tips and routines that will help you prevent injuries in your workplaces. You'll learn how to create a more safety-minded work culture. You'll learn about our safety commitment form, which is a new initiative that was instituted by our CEO that shows how much importance we place on every associate we hire, making a commitment that they will practice safety. And finally, the importance of daily safety walks that will be covered. So those things you can count on, but you'll also learn many other things as you participate in this webinar. Now, during the course of the presentations, please feel free to ask any questions you would like and place in the chat. I will get to as many of those as I can. I will interrupt our presenters during the course of their presentations as often as I can. I don't want to interrupt their flow, but I will do so as you put questions in the chat. Also, at the end, we will have some time for Q&A. So those questions that you have that you would like to save to the end for the Q&A, please put in the Q&A and I'll get to as many of those as I can as well. The webinar will be recorded. So as soon as we have it up and it's live on our website, I will send out an email to everyone that has registered for this webinar, and you will be able to access the recorded version and share with your colleagues or as many people as you'd like. Now, let me introduce our presenters, and we'll get started. First, we have Steve Grimaux. Steve is our Vice President of Risk Management here at Partners Personnel. Steve is a graduate of UCLA with a bachelor's degree in economics. Go Bruins. He became licensed as a CPA in 1985 and was a partner in Deloitte's Audit and Enterprise Risk Services Department. He has been involved in staffing since 2013 with responsibilities and oversight over safety professionals, claims and risk analysts, underwriters, and investigators nationally. Ron Swope is our National Safety Director here at Partners Personnel. Ron has over 25 years of experience working in the staffing and safety industries and has received numerous awards for his leadership as Director of Safety and Underwriting for one of the largest staffing companies in the world prior to joining Partners. And finally, Aaron Corbin. Aaron is our Regional Safety Director here at Partners Personnel. Aaron is a veteran in the industry safety field. He is focused on temporary staffing for the past 12 years. He received his bachelor's degree in occupational safety and health management and is certified as an OSHA trainer as well as the Safety and Health Council. Welcome, all of you. Great to have you with us. Steve, let's start with you.
Okay. I want to welcome everybody as well. Hopefully this time will prove valuable to you. I could talk about safety all day. It's interesting. My background is in serving clients in public accounting, but for the last 10 plus years, I've been involved in safety in a way that has changed my life. And I don't think that I can leave the house in the morning without identifying things where safety could be improved. So we you laugh, but it's my reality. We know because we have tens of thousands of associates in the field, in client locations, doing all manner of tasks and work duties. We know what works and what doesn't work when we're trying to change a safety culture. We have thousands of clients that we serve, and the thousands of clients that we serve all have different safety practices, different hazards, different workforces that are affected by hours, temperatures, materials, any number of things. And so the tips that I would like to give will help realistically in most circumstances, regardless of what your business is or what your tasks are or what your product exposure is. One of the things that we have identified as associates have been injured is the meaningful difference that supervision makes. You can have OSHA standards. I mean, we'll in a little bit talk about OSHA's temporary worker initiative, but I don't think anywhere in the temporary workers initiative I don't think it says you need to bend your knees to lift a heavy box. And why do people lift heavy boxes by just bending at the waist? I don't know if it takes any longer to bend your knees and go down and do it right. Hold the box close to you, keep your back as straight as you can. But for some reason, if you have a supervisor present, they can remind people to do that, to bend their knees. Supervisors can also identify somebody that may think the easiest way to reach something high is to step on the edge of a pallet. We've got one of our associates that's been in a residential recovery facility for the last year because he thought it was a good idea to reach something high by stepping on the edge of a pallet. And wouldn't you know, his toes slipped off the edge of that pallet. And down he went and he hit his head. And now he's recovering from a traumatic brain injury. Was a supervisor present that could have changed that? Actually, we have video of that particular event. And sure enough, the supervisor was in the video. The supervisor was there. The supervisor let somebody step on the edge of a pallet and down he went. So that makes a difference. The number one cost of injuries nationally, it's actually the number one and two cost of injuries annually is slips and falls. Slips and falls from one level to the same level accounts for, I think, the most costly injuries nationally. Slipping from one level to a different level is like number two. So you didn't even have to combine them for slips and falls to be the most expensive. It occupies the top two slots. Is there something in the OSHA Temporary Workers Initiative that says, you need to mark wet floors? Maybe, but I'm not sure that that's what's happening at all of our locations. And every now and then, we definitely have slips and falls. Lacerations. I don't think there's anything in the Temporary Workers Initiative or OSHA standards that says how to safely use a box cutter to open a box. Do we get lacerations from box cutters for our associates? Absolutely. So one of the things that we think makes a huge difference is safety walks. It's fresh eyes. It's going out onto the floor. Somebody from our company, somebody from your company. It's really anybody who feels like they're safety minded and can go out and identify things. I mean, I went to the movie theater the other day and there was a guy who was, cleaning above the door with some sort of a dusting device. And all I could think was, dude, where is your eye protection? I can't leave the house, yeah, without seeing something. So when I go into a warehouse with fresh eyes, what do I see? I see forklift drivers not wearing seatbelts. And the folks that are there and responsible for that, they lose their perception of those kinds of things. I mean, they become blind to unsafe behaviors. They may not be thinking, oh, gee, that guy shouldn't be bending at the waist. Oh, that guy should be wearing his seatbelt while driving the forklift. Those kinds of things are often seen by fresh eyes. And fresh eyes, if somebody at the client or if we are going to be doing safety walks, we want those to be at random times. I mean, you're not trying to identify somebody to get them in trouble, but if you go at the same time every day, the associates out in the field will know when they have to be on their best behavior. And that's not what we're looking for. What we're looking for is an opportunity to be helpful. So if we go when they're not expecting us and we see things, we're not trying to get anybody in trouble. We are trying to help them be safe. So we will talk about safety walks. So more that we go over. And then another initiative we've got is where we ask associates questions. We do want to know when somebody's been hurt. If somebody has had a slip and a fall, and maybe it was unwitnessed, and maybe they went down hard, and there may be film, but if they don't tell us that they went down, they may think, oh, I'll go home, I'll take some Advil, I'll be better. Well, maybe they should have called the nurse hotline. Maybe they should have said at the end of the day, I landed hard. I hit my shoulder. I hit my head. I hit something. Because if you treat it right away, quite often you can prevent that injury from getting worse. And we have processes at Staffing Partners and Partners Personnel where we will reach out to injured workers to make sure that they're going to their doctor's appointments, that they're doing those things that will help them recover the quickest. And hopefully, those kinds of incidents can be treated as first aids. If it's a first aid, it doesn't go on the OSHA log. It doesn't become more complicated. Quite often, it's just simple self care as directed by a nurse over the phone on a 24/7 nurse hotline. But if they don't let us know, we can't help with that sort of thing. So hopefully, you'll hear lots about that from the other two presenters, Ron and Aaron, who are seasoned safety professionals, and they could also tell stories all day long of things that make a difference. Brad, back to
Well,
you.
yeah, thanks, Steve. Steve, I think something that's, really great about your background is you see both sides of it from the risk management. You see how much safety, improper practices can cost a company. So your background is so valuable to what we're doing here and to the information you're presenting. So thank you.
Thanks, Brad.
A reminder to all those who have just joined us, if you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat. Anything you would like to say for the Q&A at the end, put in the Q&A, and we'll get to as many of those as we can. All right, Aaron, thanks for joining us.
You're welcome. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm on the East Coast, so it's afternoon for me. It's still morning on the West Coast. As Brad said, I'm the Regional Safety Director for Partners Personnel, and we wanted to talk today a little bit about safety in your staffing partner. When it comes to what you should be doing together when it comes to safety, at the end of the day, we want to make sure that all of our employees, associates, colleagues all go home in the exact same, if not better condition than they showed up to work in. I've seen people stumble into work at 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning, and they look like they just rolled out of bed 10 minutes ago. So we want to make sure that, they're going home again in that exact same or better condition. When that doesn't happen, we need to figure out why and how to correct it. And ultimately, it's a dual responsibility between the staffing partner, whether it's partners or somebody else, and our a client, which OSHA refers to as the host employer. We want to make sure that we're working together to get that done. As Steve mentioned, we're going to talk a lot about the OSHA's Temporary Workers Initiative. For the ones that aren't familiar with this was signed into law several years ago, and how it became about was in August of 2012, a temporary associate was first day on the job, very first job he had ever had. He had been there for 90 minutes and ended up getting caught in a machine in Florida and ended up passing away from that injury. In April 29th of 2013, the only reason I remember that date is it's my birthday. OSHA signed the Temporary Workers Initiative into law. And basically, what it did was to include both staffing partner and the host employer into a dual responsibility when it comes to safety. They wanted to make sure that temporary associates were getting the same safety training that a full time or permanent associate was getting. The worker that was killed in August, they had found through the investigation that he received very little, if any, safety training prior to starting the job. He was basically put out to work and said, here, go do it. Didn't know the proper procedures and processes that were in place, things along that line. So that's what the Temporary Workers Initiative is doing, is making sure that not only the staffing partner, but the host employer are communicating with one another when it comes to safety, injuries, incidents, how they're working together, things along that line. As I mentioned, there's a dual responsibility, and we're going to talk about a lot of those. When it comes to the staffing partner, they must perform a site assessment prior to placing any employees on site. This needs to be done before they basically go out and they send employees out there, out to whatever the host employer is. This is to recognize any hazards that employee may be facing while they're there. Again, it needs to be done prior to placing an employee on the site to make sure that we're identifying those hazards as well. They also need to perform the site assessments on a regular basis, but no less than annually. They need to make sure that they're going out and seeing if there's any changes in the processes, any changes in management, any changes in machinery or the environment, and making sure that they're documenting those. They need to provide a general safety training to all employees prior to placement. This general safety training is exactly that. It's general. It's what hazards you may face while you're going out there. It's ultimately impossible for a staffing partner to be able to pinpoint every hazard that they may run into at every client they service, but getting the associates to understand that there's going to be ones that kind of encompass the majority of the assignments they may go to. That's what the general safety training is set to do. They also need to verify that the host employer is providing any specialty or site specific training that the employee may need when they arrive on site. And this can include anything from your emergency action plan, lockout, tagout, any kind of HAZCOM issues that you may be running into, anything that may be site specific or state specific. July 1st of this year, Cal OSHA, which is California's OSHA plan, is rolling out a workplace violence standard, which means that all employers must have a workplace violence program in place. And are you including the temporary associates in that? Also, to report any injuries to the host employer. Steve mentioned there's times we find out about an injury that our host employer may not know about. Ultimately, that will go into host employer's OSHA logs in most cases. We need to be able to report that to them. The host employer has responsibilities here as well. Number one, to provide a safe and healthful work environment, making sure that every worker is as safe as they can be to address any identified or recognized hazards and to make sure those abatements are taken care of. Provide site and job specific training as required by the either the state or the federal standards. Provide any refresher training is required by state or federal law. Some of the training that OSHA requires you to do, you must do annually. And we do rely on the host employers to do that, as they're in the best position to do it. They're familiar with their location, their processes, their policies, their facility. Again, any new equipment that comes in, they're going to be training their employees on it as well. Report any safety concerns, incidents, or injuries to the staffing partner, making sure that we are aware of any injuries or incidents that come up with our associates to ensure that we are following everything that the host employer wants us to do, as well as our own internal processes. Document any safety training that's completed by the employees. I get the question a lot of should we be documenting safety walks, trainings, things like that. And what I told a client not too long ago was I've never heard of OSHA issuing a citation for having too much documentation, but they do issue citations all the time for not having enough. When in doubt, document, document, document.
Can I ask you a question about the first bullet on the host employer side? I know
Sure.
that we've been talking lately about what's going on in Illinois. Illinois, yes, in California, we have to have the violence protection program. We have to do violence protection training, which, maybe we should be doing that nationally. But in Illinois, they have a very high standard for identifying hazards. Did you want to talk about that at all?
Sure. So Illinois just recently put a law into place that not only does the host employer have the responsibility to go identify each individual hazard, so does the staffing partner. And we need to be able to document that and provide general training on that specific hazard at each one of our clients. It is very cumbersome. We want to make sure that we're addressing that. So again, that's Illinois state standard. Illinois is a state OSHA program of the 50 states. So there's 27 that has basically petitioned federal OSHA and said, hey, we want to run our own state program. Illinois is one of those. And if the staffing partner does not have that hazard documented, recognized, and general training for that hazard done, they could be cited by OSHA. So that is a very new standard that has come out by Illinois OSHA. We think we got our hand on it, but we're still kind of finding some things that we need to make sure we're employing on our end on that.
Yeah, it's tricky because it's not just identifying the hazard and mitigating the risk. It's also making sure that associates are trained on how to address that hazard specifically. That's interesting. Thank you.
Yeah, just a quick question. I've had a lot of our clients come into California clients talk about the workplace violence. Can you talk a little bit into the workplace violence? Why is that so important in California for associates as well as for partners personnel in California?
Steve talked about the number one and two big cost of injuries, which is slip, trips, and falls. For the last 4 or 5 years, the number three of workplace fatalities has been workplace violence. A lot of times when you think about workplace violence, you think about, some sort of a random act, such as a workplace shooting, things like that. But they also look at that as maybe it's something internal, maybe it's something external that spilled over into the workplace, such as the domestic assault and things. And Cal OSHA has really jumped on that and want to make sure that employers are training their employees to be able to recognize the signs of workplace violence, whether it's, whatever cause there is, and how to address it and react to it, report it to whoever within the facility or, external agencies, and making sure that we're understanding that it's done. Cal OSHA has really, like I said, July 1st of this year, all employers have to have a plan in place on a workplace violence protection program. And to make sure that program is being put out, employees are being trained on it, and they have policies in place on how to address workplace violence. As I mentioned, the host employer in most cases has to record the OSHA recordable incidents on their OSHA log. We want to make sure that the staffing partner is passing that information on to them and they can make the decision whether it's recordable or not. The question I get a lot is, how do I determine whether it's on my log or not? And how OSHA looks at that is day-to-day supervision. If you are providing the day-to-day supervision to that employee, it goes on your log. And in, like I said, most cases, it's the host employer. How OSHA defines that day-to-day supervision is the supervisor that details methods, means, and processes used to accomplish the task in addition to specifically the desired outcome. I had an OSHA compliance officer said that is a very long term that says if you have a quality issue, who's ultimately responsible for fixing it? Again, if you have a quality issue, you, as the host employer, say this is what we're going to do to fix it. Most of the time, that's the one that's doing the day-to-day supervision. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Ron. He's going to talk a little bit about what we do internally at Partners.
Thanks, Aaron.
Thank you, Aaron. Thank you. Welcome, everyone. So what I'm going to talk about is our Partners Personnel Safety Declaration. Now, this is a form that we've created within Partners because safety is number one for us. Our safety starts at the top with our CEO. And most companies, you don't really get that, especially with a staffing agency, where the CEO takes it upon himself to make sure that every associate that works for us, as well as our employees too, that they're safe on the job. We put this commitment together with his guidance, and we want to make sure that every employee who signs this commitment, they are responsible to make sure that they are safe on the job. They're going to report any hazards or anything that could cause them to be hurt on the job. We want to go and commit to a zero injuries. We want to make sure that we're ensuring that all of our clients provide our employees with a safe workplace. Also, taking the time to correct any actions where hazards are identified. So when a hazard is identified, we want to make sure we take the time to correct and to train and to teach them that if these hazards are there, how do you report them?
Ron, I have a
Yes.
question for you.
Yes.
So let's say I'm an excellent qualified candidate. I want to work for Partners, get to work immediately, but I'm not willing to sign that declaration for whatever reason. Can I work for Partners?
At Partners Personnel, no, you cannot be employed if you're unwilling to sign this declaration. It is a requirement of your employment with Partners Personnel. And if you sign this agreement and you do not become, you're not safe, you're doing things outside of this agreement, you can be let go from the company based upon your unsafe acts that you do. Partners is very strict on this. If you do not sign it or refuse to sign it, you cannot become an employee with our company. One of our safety partners with Partners Personnel, which, the old saying when you say got milk, we say got safety. And got safety has been good for Partners Personnel and for all of our clients. Got safety covers everything there is about safety. And this is nationwide. We have some special things in California that they do, but everything else is covered nationwide through Got Safety. We have over 1,200 online safety trainings, English and Spanish. And the good thing about this, you can set up a class and you can start a video on any safety topic and have everybody watch that video and have them sign off for the video, and it's kept in the cloud. So if you ever have an issue where OSHA comes and says you're not providing any safety training, you're able to document that in a PDF or a spreadsheet showing the day that the class was taken, how many people attended, and a signature, date, time, and location of where it was taken at. So this is a great program, not just for partners, but for any of our clients. We believe that safety is everybody's business, right? It's just not for partners. Safety is for everyone. Whether you're an associate or you're a full-time employee, it's everybody's business. Because I want you to be safe, and I don't want you to get me injured because you're not safe. So using Got Safety, it allows us to cover quite a bit from safety posters. They have live training in the California area you can log into and view any of their webinars that they have. They have a full loss prevention program. This loss prevention program mainly is in California, but they will actually come out to your site and do walkthroughs, OSHA mock inspections. Also, if you're needing an IIPP, an injury illness prevention plan, Got Safety will tailor a injury illness prevention plan to your company. Now, the biggest thing I love what Got Safety does is our OSHA compliance. If you have a citation from OSHA, they have an OSHA defense team that works to help mitigate any type of OSHA violation you have. And with Got Safety, it supports all of our clients. It supports all of our safety members that we have in every branch can issue a Got Safety program to any of our clients.
Ron, I'm sorry, I have this question for you.
Okay.
You said safety is everyone's business. I don't think of my job as having anything to do with safety. Am I wrong?
You're wrong. Even though you may sit in an office and you're in that office and there's carpal tunnel, there is ergonomics that goes on. And if you're out within your office and say there's some paper on the ground and no one picks it up and that person behind you slips and falls, that's our job, is to go out and identify those hazards and be able to correct. Even though you may sit in an office and think, oh yeah, I'm immune to anybody getting hurt. No, that's not true. You can get hurt and you have hazards around you even while you're in the office. We have a safe associate field engagement, which I really like, the SAFE, the acronym SAFE. We have our partnership specialists. What does our partnership specialist do? So what they do is they will walk the facility looking for hazards, identifying hazards, correcting any of the bad habits that they see, and making sure that our associates are safe. So as they go through their day of work, at the end of that day, as Steve talked about earlier, the three questions, those three questions appear on that time clock. And, the good thing about that it appears on that time clock is that even if you don't use our NovaTime system in your time clock, allows you to type or add questions in, you can take these questions and put them right into your time clock and still have that same for our associates as they clock out. And for your associates too, to ask that question. Was your workplace safe and free from hazards? Was your workday injury free? Those two crucial questions right there will determine for us how you're working on the site and the client is providing a safe and hazard free workspace for you. And my day was free of injury. Now I'm able to go home the same way that I came to work. As Aaron would say, want to make sure that I'm going home the same way or better than what I was when I got there this morning.
Ron and Aaron, Steve, I've had a number of questions come into the chat. How can people sign in to the safety portal?
So what they can do is reach out to their local branch and we can help them get a sign in set up through Got Safety. Each sign in is unique to that person. So we can help them get that set up through our Got Safety specialists that we have internally.
So contact your local branch manager.
Yes.
Great. Thank you.
You know, also, Brad, one thing about when they go to the branch and they get this set up, it is a free. If you're one of our clients, we set you up with the basic account. And that basic account covers so much with all of the videos and some of the webinars, but it allows you to see those and use those videos and safety posters. So it could be free if you're using partners.
Ron, borrowing a line from a very well-known movie, you had us at free.
Yes, yes. It is.
You know, it's interesting. There are so many safety lessons on the Got Safety site. I think at this point they've got like 1,200 videos and more safety lessons that they may or may not have a video. They're all bilingual. They're in English and Spanish. If you need it in a different language, Got Safety can produce safety videos in, I think, up to 60 languages. They've got resources and can gain access to that. The only real challenge is how do you distill down to the safety lesson you want most? For instance, if you pulled up heat illness training, if you went into the Got Safety site and you typed in a search term for heat illness training, you might get 5 or 6 lessons. Some may be more important to people working inside versus outside, and any number of things. It's great to have such a diverse, broad resource available to, realistically, all of our clients.
Yes.
Yeah, thanks, Steve. Just a reminder to everyone, feel free to put your questions into the chat, and we'll also have some time at the end for Q&A, so feel free to put any questions you have in the Q&A as well. Love the questions that have come through. Major one was just answered. Contact your branch manager to gain access to the safety portal. So thanks, Ron, for answering that.
All right, thank you. So we want to talk about our safety observation program. I mentioned a little bit about having our safety walkthroughs on each location. They do a daily walkthrough. Now, when this safety observation program was put together in its infancy stage, we wanted to figure out how can we have our on-site personnel walk the facility looking for hazard. What are they going to be looking for? And how do they document this? So with partners, we created our own app for each one of our partnership specialists. And our app was created based upon what we saw as our safety team as we walked our facilities and the common things that we saw while walking to give them a template of what they're looking for while they're walking the facility. So they do those daily walkthroughs and they're looking for those unsafe behaviors and they're looking for those safety violations too within the facility. I remember I walked a facility and there was a pallet in front of the fire door. And as I was walking the facility, I said, whoa, you blocked the fire door here. And the gentleman who had set the pallet there, I only set it there for a minute and I'm going to be moving it right away. You can't even sit it for a minute because if a fire breaks out and everybody's rushing for that door, you're not going to have time to grab that pallet and move it out. And you may cause everyone behind that door trying to get out to be caught into a fire or trampled as everyone tries to get out the door. So crucial. We see those, we report them immediately, and we have those things moved when it comes to those type of safety violations. Also, with the directions coming from our regional safety managers and our directors, we want to make sure that all of our clients, we have that client safe engagement. That means that when I go out to a facility, I'm here to help. I ask the clients and say, what can I do to help you? Because I want to be that resource to be a helper and a partner because we're partners, personnel, right? So we partner with all of our clients, and safety is everybody's business. It is number one for us, and it's number one for my team that we're there and we want to make sure that we're having our safety meetings with our associates. We're telling them, giving them good advice and good tips on what they're doing on the facility, as well as completing some of those root cause investigations when there is an actual injury. We want to partner with our client to make sure that we work as a team to try to make sure that we can find out what happened and get it all taken care of.
Ron,
And yes.
could you talk about the clients that don't have a partnership specialist? Who should be doing safety walks? I mean, maybe you could talk about who can train somebody on their team to go out and do a safety-minded walk.
Yeah, so what we would do if we have a client that does not, once they alert their regional safety manager or director, we will come out onto the facility and whoever they would designate, we will show them what to look for and how to create their own walkthrough program and helping them to design that and training them. And they can always lean back on partners as a partner with them to make sure that they are successful in what we're finding. And when they do find those hazards, we're there to help them figure out how do we mitigate them? How do we get them ready to go? And that's one of the things that we do as a partner with our clients.
Steve,
Thank
great
you.
question. Ron, let me ask this question. That service that we provide, is that also free?
Oh, I'm the guy of free things. I'm going to give you everything that I have for free because safety is free for anyone. And yes,
That's
it is
great.
it is part of our service. It's just what we do. Like Steve says, once you in that safety, it's in you. And it's something that, I enjoy talking about. I enjoy walking facilities, finding those things and helping the client to see, especially when you have fresh set of eyes when you're walking through and you're helping them and you're keeping everyone safe. That's what it does for me is keeping everyone safe.
Great, thanks. I have
Right.
two questions if the panelists could answer. So first of all, GOTS safety, is that supported Quebec, Canada?
I would say yes, because it is a web-based program. Some of the features may not be like the site visits and everything may not be there, but everything else, and we would have to check with the OSHA defense if that's part of what Canada has. But all of the safety topics are the same. Same type of warehouses you're going to see in the US, you're going to see in Canada. Same slips and falls you see, you're going to see it right here in Canada too. So I got safety. It's limited, but it will cover, I would say, the majority of all of the features that we have.
Great. And then workplace violence prevention program. Do we have any videos on that, on the new regulation coming up July 1st?
We internally, we have actually developed one. We're going to be administering, we've got a company that we work with that helps us administer our harassment training, which is required in California and elsewhere as well. And that company that helps us administer that has a workplace violence program that they will administer for us as well. But we have, through our safety and training and compliance department, have pulled together a video. It's a short video, it's just 3 minutes, but it's more about violence awareness, the types of violence. Pretty good video. I previewed it the other day. So the answer is yes. We've got a 3-minute video that's been developed internally that we will make available.
That's great.
Yeah.
Thanks. Thanks, Steve.
And one thing, Brad, on that workplace violence, what Partners is doing, it's not just for California. This is going out for us company wide because even though California set it in place, but we feel it needs to be trained throughout the whole company, whether you're in California or you in Chicago. we want to make sure that all of our associates get a chance to go through that training.
Yeah, 3 minutes well spent.
Yes.
All right. So sometimes we get a lot of questions between staffing partners and host employers. There's been several times where I've been in one of our clients, and we may not be the only staffing agency there. We may have two or three providers. So some of the questions that you need to consider when you're setting up a staffing partnership from both the staffing partner and host employer is from the staffing partner, they should be asking, what does your training program look like for our associates, for our employees? When a new employee shows up on their first day, describe what that first day looks like. What kind of orientation do they go through? What kind of training do they go through? Do you have a mentoring program to where they're assigned a mentor for X period of time to kind of show them the ropes and make sure they're doing the right thing? Also, what kind of PPE is required and who needs to provide that? On the staffing partner side, sometimes the host employer wants the staffing partner to provide whatever PPE is required. Sometimes the host employer wants to take that responsibility on themselves. Also, how do you want safety concerns communicated? Who do you want them to flow through, them to come in? That's always an important question. We talked about our safety observation program. If we see something that needs to be addressed immediately, who do we need to go talk to about that? This one we've already talked about, but can a member of our safety team come and meet a member of your safety team? And again, form that relationship. That communication, that relationship is so important when it comes to the dual responsibility that we have. On the host employer side, they should be asking the staffing partner, what does your general safety training look like? Can I see it? You have a video, can you share that with me? Or can I come to one of your local offices and watch it? Things along that line. Also, you should be asking who their safety manager, director is, safety specialist. Again, giving you that relationship. They should also be asking, what does your injury and incident reporting look like? How, when employees report that they got hurt, how do we do that? How do we report that in? How do we flow that information back out? I saw a question earlier that came in through the chat. How do you onboard an employee? How do we go down through the checks and balances to make sure that employee has met our hiring policies and procedures to send out to you, the host employer? Ron talked about the safety declaration. If they don't want to sign it, it's a non-starter for us. We will not send that employee out. And again, same question. How do you want safety concerns communicated? If you, as the host employer, have a safety concern that involved one of our employees or even just something general, how do you want to communicate it back through to the staffing partner? And then the last piece of advice and the best piece of advice I can offer is communicate, 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 followed very closely by document, document, document. In OSHA speak, if it's not documented, it did not happen. I've never seen OSHA issue a citation because you have too much documentation. But again, communication between a multi-employer workforce, such as a staffing partner and host employer, is super essential. You want to make sure that we're communicating effectively.
That's great. All right. Well, thank you. I'm going to clear up any questions I have from the chat. And then I would ask any questions that anybody has now for the remaining time, please put in the Q&A. Let me clear up the chat. So I have a question. What experience do you have when a site has multi-staffing partners who both offer BBO programs? If one staffing partner is conducting them, would it interfere or enhance the other doing BBOs?
Not necessarily. So OSHA considers a program like that a self-audit, and they will not use a self-audit as part of an investigation if they would come in. And in fact, I've been involved in that a couple of different times where if you have multiple staffing agencies doing kind of the same program, it gives you a comparison on what did one staffing agency find. And again, that fresh eyes approach, maybe they saw something that the other one didn't and vice versa. You could use it as a multifaceted thing and use it as a comparison of, hey, both of them came up with this, or this one found something, this one didn't. We need to address all of it. I think it's ultimately a Good thing to have it done multiple ways. You could do that internally as well. And I've seen that with multiple clients where they'll take somebody maybe from their warehouse area and put them into the manufacturing area to just look for hazards, because now you're taking them out of their environment that they're comfortable with and putting them in one that they're not so much. And again, that's that fresh eyes approach.
Thanks, Aaron. Does your services provide an annual health and safety audit?
So we provide a client facility assessment. On the client facility assessment, what it allows us to do is to document any changes that may occur on the site each year, if there are any changes. And that client facility assessment allows us to add any additional training that may be required from the client, that they may come and say, hey, I would like your associates to now wear these type of PPEs. That is something that we can address, and then we can actually make those changes and provide that type of service to them during our yearly walkthroughs.
Right. Thanks, Ron. Steve Grimeau, we have a number of people that want to know if our workplace violence video will be compliant with the new July 1st regulations.
Yeah, Ron and Aaron are currently reviewing it for completeness. It's basically a requirement on a Senate bill. So the Senate bill requires the training to have certain elements, and Ron and Aaron are reviewing the video for compliance actually right now. So we've got a couple weeks before we'll pull the trigger on that.
For those that are in the audience, please now, for the remaining time, put any questions you have in the Q&A. We are now in the Q&A time of our webinar. I will ask this final two questions from the chat, and then I will move over to the Q&A. So first question, are employers responsible for the safety of mental health of associates?
That is a little bit of a loaded question. OSHA does not have a specific standard when it comes to mental health of an associate. Sometimes it's very hard to basically gauge that. They do highly encourage having mental health resources available, such as an employee assistance program, things along that line. Ultimately, what they want to look at is if there's a recognized hazard and you fail to do anything about it, that's when OSHA is going to get involved. They're going to actually classify it as a general duty standard. So is it strictly an employer responsibility? Not really, but you should have some resources available and make sure that employees understand what those resources are.
Right, thanks, Aaron. Regarding OSHA recordables, if the staffing coordinator is on site, does that fall under partners to input on OSHA log for any temp employee injury that results as recordable?
Actually, no, there is a letter of interpretation in the OSHA record keeping standard that they have identified. They call it an on-site manager in that letter, but basically they look at it more as an administrative role. Therefore, it's an HR role, and they still look at the host employer as doing the actual direction of this day-to-day supervision. The way they look at that is the on-site manager, we call them partnership specialists, would absolutely have no ability to, if there's a quality issue, they're not the ones directing on how to fix that. If there's a production issue, they're not the ones that's directing that. It would be more on the client. So they would still fall back onto the client to record those injuries. However, again, that communication piece, because at the end of the year, when you're coming up with your OSHA summaries, you can use the hours worked by temporary associates on your logs, which may bring your IFR down.
Do you recommend having a safety committee if there's no safety manager? What are the pros and cons?
I recommend a safety committee, whether there's a safety manager or not. Pros and cons of a safety committee. The pros definitely outweigh the cons. You get multiple insights, you get multiple views, you get multiple people's thought processes when it comes to it. The one con that I do see with a lot of safety committees is the follow through. They may bring something to light in the safety committee, and then once it walks out the door, you never hear from it again. So making sure if you've got a safety committee and they bringing things up, that you're following through with it. I would also highly encourage getting different people involved a committee from different parts of your facility, including the employees in on that, because now they have a sense of ownership of it. And when they have a sense of ownership with their safety program, you're going to get a lot more buy-in a lot faster.
We actually have an executive safety committee here at Partners Personnel, and we rotate the members in and out to continue to get new ideas. And we've actually reached to external partners. For instance, Liberty Mutual is our workers' comp insurance carrier. And Liberty Mutual, you've seen their commercials on TV. They've got great resources for a great many things, including safety professionals. And we've got a couple Liberty Mutual safety professionals that participate in our executive safety committee meetings. You can always reach out to your vendors and see if they've got resources to offer. And we certainly have those resources to offer.
Right, thanks. Okay, we have one more question, and then I'm going to give each of you kind of a wrap-up summary of what you think is important for takeaways for people that have been on this webinar. Last question, can you talk about keeping staff safe from COVID/illness?
I know that Cal OSHA and Fed OSHA, they had a program as far as when COVID was actually at its height, where we kept the social distancing and making sure that we didn't gather all in one place. It depends on how your facility is set up. Can you continue that? Yes, you can. If someone is identified that has COVID, making sure that you put those processes back in place. Some companies now do not use it anymore, but some people still get COVID. They can still catch it. And making sure that each company, when they are identified as someone who has COVID, that they put those processes back in place on a limited base to make sure that no one else gets exposed to COVID while working at their facility. And yes, you can, and it can be done in a limited setting.
Our injury and illness prevention program includes respiratory illness controls, hand washing, social distancing, things like that. They still make sense.
Yes.
Right. For those of our current clients, we produce the National Safety Calendar, or our 2024 Safety Calendar that we distributed in December of last year. We are currently working on 225 version. So if you are our current client, please reach out to your branch manager and let your branch manager know that you want the 225 safety calendar. All right, gentlemen, we have 2 minutes. I'm going to give each of you a very brief kind of closing summary statement. But before I ask this question of all of you to answer, which is your closing statement, I'm just going to remind everybody that a video of this presentation will be on our website. You'll receive email notification of that as soon as it's ready and live. So wanted to remind everybody of that. I have everybody's email that has registered, so we'll be getting information out to all of you shortly. All right, Steve, let's start with you. We got 1 minute, so you got 20 seconds.
We're staffing partners. We know that we're being hired to do the job. The job is the job. We just want the job to also be safe.
Great. Steve, thank you. All right, Ron.
Well, like everything that we talked about, one of the key things that I really want everyone to take away is the communication. Communicate. If we're all communicating with each other, we can solve some of the safety issues that we find within our facility. So communicate, communicate, communicate.
Thanks, Ron. All right, Aaron.
Mine is getting the employees involved, the employee engagement. None of us would have any of our businesses, whether it's staffing or whatever else is here represented on the call, without our employees. There are frontline people out there, and getting them to feel like they have a sense of ownership into the processes and policies that we have is highly beneficial when it comes to us with those programs.
Great. I want to thank our presenters here, Aaron, Ron, and Steve. Thank you for your preparation and time being with everyone. And most of all, thanks to all those who have participated in our webinar today. We appreciate your support. Safety literally is job number one for all of us. So thank you for being a part of Partners Personnel's Safety is Job Number One webinar this morning. Thank you all.
Thanks, Brad. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Brad.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.